Peace, love, and prosperity, family. It's Savvy here with the Savvy Soul Confirmation. I do want to apologize that as soon as I started this video, they started to do a little bit of construction over here. So if you hear some background, I do apologize. Luckily, that most of the stuff that I'm talking about, I did actually put together in a PDF for you, in which I will attach, and you'll be able to review at a later time. Do keep in mind that my readings are timeless, meaning that they can apply to parts of the past, the future, and also the present. Okay, so as I was tuning into the energy, today is July 17th, 2026. I started kind of tuning in at around 12:35. I'm located in Belize, so I want to say that's Central Standard Time. Today, the moon is currently in Virgo, something to keep in mind, okay? And so as I was tuning into our energy of the collective, I was seeing that a lot of initiations are taking place, okay? I also made note of high death tolls, right? And I felt like this death energy, and I feel like the death energy doesn't necessarily and only mean um, physical death. It could also mean like the end of things or the transformation of things. However, in this case, I do feel the energy of physical death, right? And so this could be expressed or shown through um, high death tolls, okay? Or maybe reflected as death rates. I was seeing an emphasis on health issues, okay, and current conditions, okay. These current conditions could be whether they're in the workspace or just environmental. But I figured that these health issues and these conditions are causing changes to your work. This could be your work, your employment, the work that you do as a service to others. Some of you are self-employed, or some of you understand you are a worker within the universe. So you being a worker, however that applies, there are changes that could be affecting your work due to health issues or current conditions, okay? This could lead to terminations. It could also lead to medical leaves, and it could also lead to time off. I do get the sense that some are being overworked and or are experiencing abuse, okay? For some, this could be self-inflicted abuse stemming from the misuse of power. And here, this is where Spirit was kind of pointing me to the Aries. This could actually be in Aries that you know, or you could be in Aries yourself. Otherwise, it could just be reflecting the energy of Aries, because I was getting more of like the willpower, the courage, right? A lot of that like strength, initiation, as I said. This is giving Aries energy. Um, Moving forward, I did make note that there could be abrupt changes. As I said, this could be within the workspace, shown through terminations, or things shown within the health that then leads to medical leaves or again time off. But this doesn't have to only relate to work, okay? This could just be abrupt changes that you begin to see. That could even be sudden terminations that you induce or that are induced upon you, that are not only related to work but maybe even relationships. These relationships could be business relationships, but it could be overall any type of relationship, because after all relationships are business, okay? And how you manage yourself, how you manage your relationships is how you manage your business. Ashe. So this is where I made note that there could be miscommunication that is causing disconnection and misunderstanding. This could be making people more emotional and making them more vulnerable. Now keep in mind that Mercury is retrograde in Cancer, so this is kind of where I was picking up that energy, right? And it is important to know that what you let go of and what you attach from, some things are actually divinely put into your life. So you don't want to release and let go of everything. You want to be asking for guidance at this time to know and to confirm what it is that is supposed to be released and detached from your life, whether it applies to people, places, or things. But you don't want to detach from everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything in the sense of the things that Spirit, the Most High, the divine placed into your life with purpose and with reason. Okay, and so some of these things, they might be challenging, but just because it's challenging doesn't mean that it's not supposed to be happening. So it could require more effort from you. Okay, and perfection takes effort. And some things, sometimes people say things are not perfect or it will never be perfect. If you are not putting forth the effort to, perfect, like do the work. You see how you can hear like the tools in the background, utilizing the tools, utilizing resources, utilizing gifts and things to help you do the work, right? Because work is constant and consistent, okay? But we don't want to be overworked nor abused either. So we're going to talk about those balances moving forward, okay? Remember, I kind of put this in a PDF, and you guys will have access to this PDF, and I'm moving through it, so just kind of bear with me as I review. I was saying that okay, so the energy of cutting some things off or letting some things go, it can be shown through impulse. And I feel like this impulse is coming from your emotions and coming from your feelings. Like I said, you could be feeling emotionally vulnerable. And so because of that, it's like you feel impulsive. Like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and cut this off. I don't need it anymore. I don't want it anymore. I should. However, utilize discernment so that you understand what you're actually cutting off, and you can make sure that it's not something that the divine actually placed in your life with purpose and with reason, okay? Because some of this impulse is just you acting out. Again, it's acting out of what? Acting out of your emotions, okay? And this, I was feeling, can definitely lead to regret, and not just regret leading forward, but I'm feeling some regret that could last for a long period of time, okay? So it's something to be mindful of. Spirit was reminding me that it's really not about what you want. And for people that understand their true purpose and they understand the nature of things, they understand that it is not all about what you want. You do know that you do have free will and that you can do whatever it is that you want, and you can attempt and you can try and you can, spend your energy however you wish and however you will. But just because you want that does not mean that that is what it is or what you are supposed to do, because there is a purpose, there's alignment, there's an assignment. And if you're just doing what you want, not staying true to the alignment, not staying true to the assignment, then that can be very problematic, okay? And this is a very problematic energy and time. So you want to be on the right side of things. Going in a little bit further, some of you will be encouraged to begin new work. This new work could be influenced due to some of those terminations taking place, whether it is through jobs and corporations, creating terminations, whether people are absolutely walking away from certain jobs or backgrounds, or whether there is certain, again, like health conditions or certain environmental conditions that put you onto a new path, right? So this new path begins to be your new work, and this now gives you new tasks and new forms of labor, okay? This was taking me to make note of ambitions. Okay, so you might want to just highlight ambitions, and again, going back to that Aries energy, also going back into that initiations taking place. Okay, I do feel like the unknown is being given its due credit. A lot of times, the unknown doesn't really get credit because people don't see the unknown, but people recognize the physical. They give more credit to what they can see, and they make sense of what they can see, but they don't realize that everything that they see came from the darkness, came from the unknown. So now the unknown is getting more credit, and not credit because of the physical, but credit because people understand and are now respecting or gaining more respect for the spiritual. This is a very spiritual and esoteric time and energy, okay? Which is why it can also be so even dangerous. A little danger out there, okay? So that being said, in that moment, and I say in that moment, and I say in this moment, because again, I was writing this into a PDF form. So at that moment and in this moment, I want to just take time to honor the supernatural forces. A lot of people say, he's weird, she's weird, you're weird. That's weird. You don't understand or know that the word weird means supernatural. It's supernatural forces. It's things that most or common people don't understand. The general population doesn't understand. The regular civilians don't understand. But those that possess and understand and know the power that dwells within, it's a different motion. It's a different movement. Okay? This is going to go back to ambition. So, as I said, the unknown is being given its due credit. I made note that the new moon did take place on July 14th, but as we know, there's a pre and post effect. So that pre and post is from July 11th to July 17th. July 17th being today, right? Where the moon is now currently in Virgo. And the moon being in Virgo took me back to highlight an emphasis on those health conditions that I mentioned, right? And as I was reflecting on the health conditions and just some of the energy present right now, I was seeing again that some of these things are self-inflicted for some of you. And a lot of it is sourcing through self-sabotage, okay? This sabotage is also coming from how you have used or abused power, okay? Or how power, maybe it's not you particularly, but how power has been used and abused, okay? But I do want to highlight you and me, right? Because we have to take accountability and self-responsibility for our work, for ourselves, for our actions. So the actions taking place, definitely we have to look at and reflect on how we are or how we can inflict ourselves through our own personal self-sabotage, okay? And how this can ultimately even affect our health and the conditions and the state and the status, okay? Spirit was having me highlight the North Node, which is currently in Pisces and is there at 0 degrees. So this is something that I'm going to be spending some time studying more for myself and also with some of my initiates that are in my monthly membership. We are going to go a little deeper into the true North Node in Pisces. Okay, and look at it from a collective standpoint along from a personal standpoint. So if you're ever interested in personal readings or you're interested in personal development, let me know. I'm going to start you off where you are, but it is going to be good to be able to look at your chart and see where that transit is actually taking place and how it will and can affect you and how you can, of course, best use it. But this led me to a question. So I want to ask you a question and I ask myself the question too. How do I feel about it all? How do I feel about what's happening? How do I feel about the environment? How do I feel about the space? How do I feel about my work? How do I feel about how things are working for me? Okay, how do you feel? How do you feel about you? Spirit is showing me the things that you secretly love. So there's an influence and there's an impact on things that you secretly love. Okay, these are things that you keep hidden, that you don't really show. You don't. These are the emotions you don't show much wear on your sleeve, or you make so obvious, right? But they are things that you secretly love, and these are the things that Spirit is bringing my attention to. This is where I started to feel some feelings of anger and discontentment. Okay, and they begin to show like and bubble up, like kind of bubble up and come to the surface. So there could be things that are coming to the surface or being exposed as it relates to your anger or the areas of discontentment. You must give yourself time to cool off and cool down. Okay, this is really important, to take time to cool off and cool down. This is about coming into balance and equilibrium. Spirit was very much highlighting equilibrium, so much that I went and actually looked it up to make sure that we have a full understanding of equilibrium, not just being balanced, but it actually being a state of balance or stability where opposing forces. So you got to look at the opposition, and you have to look at the influence, and you have to look at the actions, and we have to work how to cancel those things out so that they do not create any change. Okay? That is what equilibrium is, a state of balance or stability where opposing forces, influences, or actions cancel each other out so that no net change occurs. So I see an emphasis in studying that, and even before, within this past week, Spirit was really showing me neutralizing, right? To neutralize. And I was seeing it from a standpoint of kind of like pH balance, something that is really acidic and it's extreme on this end, and then where it is alkaline, right? And it's really extreme on the other end, and finding the equilibrium, which we know to be, I believe, 7.5. So, neutralizing. And I was, getting more information on certain, we'll say, substances that help to neutralize something, such as like baking soda, right? If you add a little bit of baking soda to the water, it helps neutralize. Charcoal helps neutralize. Okay, so those are the type of effects that I'm feeling. Those are the type of elements that I'm feeling. And if you are into elemental work, these are some elements that might be effective in your work right now. What did I say? Charcoal and baking soda. Okay, so that made me look up neutralize as well, okay? To neutralize, which means to counteract, nullify, or make an action, substance, or force ineffective. So it's all about, like, as you see, making sure that no change occurs, making sure that it's ineffective, making sure that it doesn't happen, making sure that, right? So you actually, whatever this is and however this pertains to you, you have the ability to stop it. Like, you have the ability to move mountains. That mountain that you move can create a block or a barrier that's needed to protect. Like right now, I'm in Belize. They have a seawall, right? That seawall is because the city of Belize is below sea level, right? Which makes them more susceptible to their whole fucking country being flooded out, right? Or at least that area, okay? Which actually made them um, move their main, what is that? What word am I thinking of? Anyway, they moved their main plot from Belize City to Belmopan, okay? Where Belmopan is actually higher grounds. It's a little bit more safer. So that's where all of the governmental buildings and things are now, right? Like the embassy. So I say that to say that you have to have those blocks and barriers, or you can be a block and barrier. And the block and barrier to some could be the end of the world, could be the end of their ruling, right? Because it has been put to a halt, right? Through you, or through the spirit within you, through all that is that works for the highest good. Ashe? We are working to bring equilibrium, right? Again, I want to emphasize no net change occurs. To neutralize, meaning ineffective. Okay? Those are the type of powers. And again, for some, that is considered negative. To others who are on the other side of it, that is considered a positive. I got a phone call, so hopefully that doesn't disrupt this live that I have going on. This is my first time using Substack and getting a phone call, so I don't know how or if it does disturb. If so, I'll have to re-record, but hopefully this retrograde ain't stopping none of that. Okay? Moving on. Spirit was letting me know that for this reason, you must assess whether it is a good time to address any issues and or concerns affecting you at this time. Okay? Because remember, we were talking about some of those things you secretly love in the areas that are now bringing or showing where you're holding some anger or discontentment. And the only reason you have anger or discontentment towards it, let me rest assure you, is because you love it. That's the only reason why you feel the way you do about it, is because you actually love it. Okay? So remember that. And because of that, you must assess whether it is a good time to address the issue and or concern that is affecting you. For me personally, as a practitioner at this time, I would recommend waiting until about July 23rd, okay, to initiate any difficult conversation, because it could lead to a situation, and that's not really what you want. Again, we want to bring balance, we want to bring equilibrium, we want to bring harmony to this. So I was seeing that some of these conversations or some of this might not take place until around August 13th or sometime thereafter. I do not recommend, although I say I do not recommend having those conversations until the timing, which I said July 23rd, and might not even take place until August 13th or thereafter. However, I do not recommend holding in your anger, okay? Because sometimes the holding in and holding in and holding in is the indication that it really does need to just come out. And we can't judge, I can't judge how it comes out. All I know is that it has to come out. And sometimes it comes out ugly. Sometimes it comes out and it stinks. Sometimes it comes out and it's affection, it's pus. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's been there for a long time. Like, you get to see the condition, and it's not always a really good condition. At the end of the day, though, it needed to be released, it needed to be relieved, it needed to come out. And Like I said, some people might receive it or be on the negative side of it, so they perceive it as a bad thing when in actuality it's what's needed, and it's what you had to give, right? So it comes up and it comes out. Because if you hold it in, this is where I was seeing like some suffering in the sense of like your stomach. This could lead to like stomach ulcers, or you could have or be dealing with stomach ulcers. It can also be shown or reflected through digestive issues. For those that are alcoholics, whether you're functioning or non-functioning alcoholic, whether you perceive yourself as alcoholic, but you know that you do drink or you enjoy drinking, for those of that nature, this is a time where you have to pay attention to your kidneys, your livers, and your spleen, okay? Because like I said, the anger, the internal effects, the stomach, the digestion, the feelings, the emotions, the vulnerability, all of those things, it's really activated right now, okay? So, that being said, I'm going to repeat again. Do not be impulsive. Think before you act. You know, I sense that you could be more prone to acting more harshly. You could be more prone to having a more attitude, being a little bit more irritable, things of that nature. And if you are prone to being more irritable, or you notice yourself being impulsive, or you notice your anger kind of sitting on the edge, you know, if you feel that way, that is your time and that is your indication that you know that I really need to gain self-control. And you could be a person that has self-control, that studies, that is on top of their game. But this is just a reminder. This is like, you know, let's go higher. Let's go higher. Let's go higher. Okay, so take a moment to gain self-control, which in this case is equilibrium from within. We're not trying to find the equilibrium on the outside and trying to balance and make everybody happy and give so much that we don't have nothing and we're depleted and we're on the negative side of this. No, we actually want to bring equilibrium, utilizing and gaining self-control from the inside of ourselves, because really that's where peace comes in. And that's where equilibrium and neutralizing comes from. It comes from peace, the source of peace, okay? So we're going to be activating peace in the midst of chaos, Ashe, because some of this energy is chaotic and will be chaotic moving forward, okay? Because things are heating up. And, you know, when things are hot, bothered, irritable, angry, like it's all a part of it. It's all of the element. And I did mention, if I didn't mention, I meant to mention the element of fire, okay? I did mention Aries in particular, but the moon was just in Leo, okay? And that means something for me heavily, but it also lets me know the dates of, let's see, the 15th and the 16th, okay? So the 15th and the 16th, yesterday and the day before, the moon was in Leo. And so some of these things could be reflecting or have an effect. But the effect that I see, or where the effect is coming from, again, goes back to that self. It goes back to the self. And why I say self is because this. Do not think or create out of anger. This is why you have to gain self-control. Because you don't want to think, which is ultimately create, out of anger. Instead, you want to utilize your energy, which is the energy of anger at that moment and at that time, to fuel your work, to drive your force, to push your ambition, and to give yourself momentum. It's a fire, it's a flame. And when you misuse it or you abuse it, there can be consequences, again, even long-term effects. But the situation itself is not bad. It actually helps you gain control or become aware enough to harness, right? And this right here, we talk about harnessing energy a lot, calling back our energy a lot. But in this case, it's not so much about harnessing or calling the energy back. This is more so about how you utilize your energy and why you utilize it. What moves you to do what you do. Okay? So, hold on, bear with me. Yeah, because When you think or create out of anger, it often comes from a place of destruction. Now, I'm not a person that thinks that destruction is all the time bad, because some things have to be destroyed in order for something to be created. Some things have to be eradicated. Some things do have to be killed. I'm not a person that says no to violence. Um, Violence is necessary and needed. I know that God has a wrath. I understand why God's wrath moves the way it does, and I also know that God is a killer. So, you push the right button, and that's what the fuck you get. And a lot of people don't understand that. They might ask me, do you do root work? Do you do voodoo? What do you do? I know what's more important is what you do. Because if you do certain things, you can get reactions. And it's all based on who you did it to and why you did it, right? Which is your intention. And when you have intentions set on certain people, places, and things that were intended and placed in your life divinely, and you begin to curse, use, abuse those things, trust and know you did voodoo to yourself. You cursed yourself. You understand? You don't have to worry about who or what is doing something to you. You got to realize what you are doing to yourself. Okay, so this goes back to that self-inflicting energy that I was telling you about, and you have to take accountability, because again, you'll be asking or coming and saying, do you think somebody did work on me? Do you think da da da? I think you did the work on yourself. Okay? And the minute you take accountability and responsibility, that work that you self did, you can self undo. Okay? Which is 12 house, which is Pisces. So Pisces energy is notated here. You are going to see that written here in this PDF. Okay? And that could be you being a Pisces, that could be a Pisces that you know, and it could be the overall Pisces energy, which is here, because there's a lot of esoteric, there's a lot of spiritual, there's a lot of hidden, there's a lot of depth to this energy, right? There's a lot of danger to this energy, there's a lot of risk to this energy, all of that. So Pisces, yes, most definitely. And this is why I also highlight, and I've said before, and I'm going to say it again, that being cautious is being conscious. Being cautious is being conscious. Okay? So cautious, right? Because there's danger, there's risks. You got to be careful. You have to be aware of your surroundings. You got to keep your head on your swivel. You got to be cautious. Okay? And the more that you are cautious, the more conscious you actually are. Okay? The more aware, the more present you actually are. So that's very important here. Let's see. It says, I am a reflection of self-mastery. Therefore, it is important that I emphasize your need for self-control. Mastering your energy is not about harnessing your power, but more about how and why you use your power. And even the why, because a lot of times that goes into possession, what makes you do the things that you do. Sometimes you do what you do because you do it because you want to. Now, going back to your wants don't matter. So once you know that, then you can stop doing. That's that self-undo. You don't do that because you want to do that, because your wants don't matter. So don't do that shit again. Because if you do it again, you understand? That's what time it is. Thank you. Now, be careful with highly emotional and sensitive beings right now. Be careful with them. And you might be an emotional, insensitive, and high power being yourself. So know that people need to be careful with you. Know how sensitive and know how vital and viral it is right now, okay? Because there is an emphasis on extremes. So again, extremes, me seeing the linear, me seeing the positive and the negatives, me seeing the medium, me seeing the neutral, right? Those are the extremes. Spirit said, some people may experience or will be a witness to psychiatric episodes. Okay, so this is why the cautious and conscious comes in. Ashe. Self-control versus self-harm. I was sensing a risk of danger, and that could be danger to self or danger to others. Okay. Emphasis on firearms, cars, heavy machinery. Okay. Even I know that I have a past note that I wanted to look on, and if I might have done readings with you, if I mentioned to you a technician, I have to go back into notes, but I feel like going back to a technician. Okay. But anyway, technology. Thank you, Savvy. Technology, electronics, again, machinery, heavy firearms, cars. This could be like the old school cars from electrical cars, right? How those are serviced, how those are a service or a detriment, okay? So overall, I want you to be able to use this in the document that I'm going to attach as foresight to assist with your pre-planning and preparing, because a lot of people say they don't know, and you can't say that you don't know, because you do know, okay? So a lot of things that you don't know, you're beginning to know, you're finding out. And because you know, you have choices that you must make. And these choices, again, you don't want to be impulsive. You want to be able to take time. You want to make cool, calm, and collected decisions, okay? You don't want to move or create out of a place of anger. You want to, though, take the energy of anger, recognize that you are angry, and take that energy, that fire, and utilize it as fuel. That is the best way to utilize that energy. Use it as fuel. Before you use it as fuel and take action, make sure your action is not just dependent on what you want, but actually seek guidance from the Most High so that you can exert this energy in the best of way. Ashe? Know that a lot of what I'm talking about, I did reflect on work, your work environment, your business. But I want you to remember that your business is a reflection of your relationships, and your relationships are a reflection of your health, which we've been talking about health concerns and health issues. All of this, and we talked about self-infliction, right? So this could also be due to your own choices. This could be your eating habits and what you put in your body, right? Also, maybe your exercise, how you move your body, also how you express yourself. Remember how I said you can curse yourself? I don't do voodoo. You did voodoo on you. How did I do it? Because of what you said, because of what you spoke, because of how you utilize yourself, your energy, your power. You understand? That is how. So you need to be mindful of that, and also be not only mindful of how you use it, but how others use it on you, how it affects you. Okay? That is very important. As I said, this is like a time where risks are highlighted. Things are not as conventional or traditional, which is why things are changing or putting you maybe even in the space of changes to your workplace. If you are called off or terminated, or maybe put into a time where you're using your medical leave, utilize your time wisely. Okay, use this time to gain more knowledge and become more aware. Maybe invoke some entrepreneurial gifts, or things, goals, that type of thing. Figure out how you can become your own boss as you figure out how to control yourself better, right? And just how to utilize and best use your energy. Be mindful of your space, again, and the environment, because again, those environments can have effects on you, and those effects can be affecting your actual health. Your health can then affect your thinking. Your thinking can either be your thinking is in connection to your creation, and your creation, if you're thinking from a space of anger, okay, then your creation is coming from a place of destruction. Okay, so understanding who, what you are, what's working through you, why it's working through you, what moves you, why you want what you want, and if your wants are in alignment with the will. You understand? So very much paying attention, again, paying attention, keeping your head on the swivel, right? Cautious is conscious, things of that nature. Remember I said to you about your secret desires, your secret wants, your secret loves, things of that nature, right? Some of you actually want to make contact with somebody, um, or you want this person to make contact with you, but you're acting like you don't. Like what you're saying or what you're feeling is not matching what you're actually doing. So that's something to keep in mind. And maybe if that's not you, that could be what somebody's doing. Like they're not making contact with you, but they actually do want to. Or they're avoiding something. They're avoiding communication, but that doesn't mean that it's because they really, really want to. Again. okay? They just in the avoidant period. You know, some people are running, some people are broken, and some people are recognizing and realizing. And again, this is what leads to some of the anger and discontentment, okay? As I said, there could be a change to the work environment, and like I said, being called off or terminated and things. So there could be a change in your money and your finances, or you could be changing your work, your duties, your labor, which is creating new opportunities, creating new pathways for finances. Like I said, entrepreneurial, boss, taking control, taking authority type of thing. Remembering your health has everything to do with your wealth, things of that nature, right? So this is definitely applying from the material, the physical, the financial aspects. Um, this is a time for you to, again, utilize good judgment. Don't make impulsive decisions. Take time to give yourself time, to give yourself reason. Even utilizing discernment to make sure that you don't cut off things that the Most High, that Spirit has put into your life divinely and purposely with reason. You understand, even when it's like difficult, or even when it's not the way you want it or why you want it. You understand, but you understand that it is given to you with purpose and reason. So in that and only that do you find honor. And because you find honor, you find respect. Because you find respect, you find love, okay? And this is what puts you on the best and the greatest side of things. Otherwise, I can't tell you that this energy will end the way that you want it to. I can tell you that this does take time, so you could have to be patient, or sometimes like this month has moved by really fast, so time might not even feel like anything. It might feel like yesterday. Whatever this energy is, let me say it like that. It can definitely feel like yesterday. Um, what else was I going to say? Some of these things could actually be affecting maybe even a child. But outside of just affecting the child, I just, again, feel that it has a lot to do with like your faith, your inspiration, your encouragement, your what is it, ambition, right? Your motive, your drive. Maybe when I'm mentioning the child, this could be from childhood, something of that nature. But also, I told you Aries, and Aries. Um, let's see, Aries, the Fool card. Yeah, very childlike in nature, type of thing. Um, hmm Some of you guys have to do some mirror work, or will be looking into the mirror. You guys will be recognizing and seeing things, this display. Some of you will be taking accountability and responsibility. Some of you will be gaining ownership. Some of you will be knowing how to better use your negative and positive traits, not being so upset at your negative or your positive trait, but actually knowing how to bring equilibrium, right? To knowing how to exercise, knowing how to utilize this energy properly, okay? There's some things that are hidden that are coming to light, that are being exposed. You have to be comfortable and you have to be okay with that, okay? This could trigger some memories as well. I'm going to go ahead and end here. If anybody has any questions, anything they want to share, please let me know. If you're interested in your own private reading, or you're interested in spiritual development, or you just want to make contact with me, please be open and free to DM so that I can get you on the calendar and we can get a one-on-one and kind of just get acquainted, okay? I hope you have a wonderful day. Peace and love to you, and I will talk to you guys again soon. This has a PDF attached to it, so if you need it, if you want to review, go ahead and click and save and share with your friends and your family. All right? Again, peace and love, and have a wonderful day.